Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1, or should I say Stop and Go F2, as this is our reaction to the F2 races of the Spanish Grand Prix. We'll get into all of it just in a small moment. But firstly, we have to say please like and subscribe. And of course, thank you to our members who are Tier AI Racing Champion and above, Dakota and the Joyous James. If you want to join them in being joyous, you can join at the AI Racing level. And there's a link down below. Or there's a cheaper level than that, just 99p a month to help support the channel if that's something you're interested in. But let's get into the F2 race. Starting with the sprint race of yesterday, where Cush Miney was on pole position, Victor Martins alongside. Off the start, Martins takes the lead of the race. Miney has an awful start, going from P1 to P5 on lap 1, but does make a pretty instant recovery back up to third by the start of lap 2. Miata is all over the back of Victor Martins as Miata sets the fastest lap from P2 on lap 4. Ollie Behrman had a dreadful weekend. Qualified 14th, meaning he would start 14th for both races, and just really struggling in this sprint race, just going backwards. P21 by lap 10. Real bad time for Ollie Behrman this weekend. Obviously an issue with the car during the sprint race, but otherwise just the Prema had no pace for him at all. Hadjar is finally past Antonelli, and Crawford also follows through a couple of corners later. Antonelli down from P7 to P9. That was on lap 12. Antonelli, opposed to Behrman, had a very good qualifying, a decent result for him, but just seemed to just lack pace. Tyres seem to be going a lot quicker for him than anyone else, so he would start quite well but then just fall back. A few penalties handed out here for track limits, including 5 seconds for Stanek, Miata and Maloney. That would not be the end of that either. Miata would actually get another 5-second penalty later on, so he was currently in second place, and he had a 10 seconds worth of penalties for track limits. Hadjar gets past Antonelli for P9 on lap 20. Correa gets past Bortoleto for what is P4 on track, but will be P3 with Miata's penalties at the end of the race. Paul Aaron has a fantastic move around the outside of Bortoleto on turn 4 for 5th place on the penultimate lap, and then Crawford also makes his way past Bortoleto, whose tyres were just completely gone. We cross the line and Victor Martins wins the sprint race. Victor Martins, a guy who, when we went into this season, I thought would be one of the favourites for the title, but much like the Prema lads, has not performed to the heights that we expected, but gets the first podium and first victory for himself of the year. Cush Miney comes home in second place, and it is Correa in third, but he would get a penalty after the race, demoting him to fourth, putting Paul Aaron on the podium in P3. Crawford is fifth, Bortoleto sixth, Hadjar is seventh, Miata goes down to eighth after 10 seconds worth of penalties for him. Miata, who hasn't had the best year, this was his best performance of the year, and threw it away due to track limits penalties. Hauger is ninth, Antonelli in 10th place. Then as we go through to the F2 feature this morning, there was rain towards the end of the F3 race, and I thought that might affect the F2 race, but it appears that the rain just happens in between sessions and doesn't affect anything on track. Paul Aaron, championship leader, on pole position. Crawford is alongside him. Second place in the championship is Isaac Hadjar, who was in 11th. Third place in the championship is Zane Maloney, who starts 17th. So an awful qualifying for some of the championship contenders, and a race here where Aaron can really start to build a gap in that championship to the rest of them. On the formation lap, Kimi Antonelli stalls the car, We'll have to start from pit lane. Stanek also has a pit lane start. Paul Aron gets away well, but there's a big crash further down the grid between Dennis Hauger and Victor Martins. Both of them are out. It seems that Pepe Marti and Amory Cordial also got caught up in this, but were able to get away with no damage, but they are further down the grid. Safety car comes out for this, of course. Hajar has gained 6 places up to 5th place. Just behind the safety car, so a great start from him. Safety car wasn't out for long. In on lap 4, Aaron's able to keep the lead, but not a great getaway for him. Crawford is quite close behind. Dirksen passes Hajar for P5, and the hard tyre has now become the faster of the hard and soft, and we see the guys on the soft tyres start to struggle a bit. That's on lap 8. On lap 9, we see the likes of Crawford, Miata, O'Sullivan, and Stanek all pit. A lap later, Fittipaldi and Maloney comes in, slow on the exit for Fittipaldi. Lap after that, it was Bortoleto and Villa Gomez, and in lap 12, Aaron pits from the lead, as does Colapinto, Hajar and Behrman. Aaron has a bit of a slow stop, and as he comes out, he is ahead of Crawford, but Crawford has the far warmer tyres, far more grip, and is able to take the race lead. Although the race director thought that's not something we would want to see, as we watched Ollie Behrman come out of the pits and come out in like 15th place or whatever. Meanwhile, the net race lead had changed as Jak Crawford took the lead from Paul Aron. We saw that later on. Further down the grid, Bortoleto was able to get past Colapinto. We get a virtual safety car because Taylor Barnard has stopped at pit entry. As this virtual safety car ends, Paul Aron is back on the back of Crawford, but loses the rear end of the car through turn 14, and goes right through the gravel. I thought it was going to be the end of his race, but he has enough momentum to keep going through the gravel trap, come back on. And when he does, he comes back on very aggressively. I think it was Zach O'Sullivan who was coming past him, and he was never, ever keeping that position. But he pushes O'Sullivan all the way to the other side of the track whilst just coming back on. He did get investigated for it, didn't get a penalty, and I thought he was very lucky not to get a penalty because it was a very aggressive move from him. Overall, he loses 3 places from that mistake there. Dirksen now is going very slow. He was leading the race at the time on the alternative strategy by 6 seconds. So he was really in the mix at this point, but going slow, pulls over to the side of the road. This brings out another safety car. And off the virtual safety car, and off the restart of the virtual safety car, some guys were really on it, including Bortoleto, who tried to get past Colapinto but wasn't able to. But someone who was able to was Paul Aron, who was all over the back of Zach O'Sullivan and gets past him on lap 20. A lap later, Hajar is past O'Sullivan. And a lap after that, it's Maloney who's past O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan, one of the first guys to pit from the softs to the hards. Looks like his hard tyres are now starting to struggle a little bit more. Richard Verschoor is in on lap 23. And Colapinto, who's been looking to get past Bortoleto time and time again, finally does so on lap 23. Juan Manuel Correa pits from the lead on lap 28. Miney and Marty also pit. Miney, though, I thought was an unsafe release. I haven't seen anything come up about this, but for me that was an unsafe release into the path of Pepe Marti. Paul Aron is able to get past Bortoleto. This is where Amory Cordial pits. Antonelli finally pits on lap 30 of 37. He was the final driver to go into the pit lane. Correa passes Hauger now for P5. Correa, who pitted on lap 28, is now on the soft tyres, the fastest man on track, really, really good, up to P5. On the same lap, he catches Bortoleto, passes him for P4, and then 2 laps later, he's on the back of Aron and passes P3 to take the final podium position. The man who was on the podium the day before, but then had it taken away from him for track limits violations. 5-second penalty for Fittipaldi due to track limits. And then towards the end, it's the 2 Invicta cars of Miney and Bortoleto. Bortoleto in the lead, Cush Miney just behind. Miney is claiming on the radio that he has the speed to get past Hajar if Bortoleto was let him through. Bortoleto is not interested in letting him through. Miney tries to go around the outside into turn 1, and Bortoleto closes the door on him. The 2 cars hit. We get front wing damage for Bortoleto. Miney goes off the track, round the bollard, and overtakes Bortoleto off the track. Now, I haven't seen anything come out about this being a penalty or anything, but surely it should be. You know, despite the fact that they're teammates, if you overtake off the track, that's a penalty. So I wouldn't be surprised if Miney gets a penalty for this race. Shouldn't affect him too much. Should just put him back behind Bortoleto again. As we cross the line, though, it is Jak Crawford who wins the race. Colapinto in P2 and Juan Manuel Correa in P3. He gets to keep his podium so far this time as well. His first podium in 5 years. Of course, he had that awful crash. Had to basically completely rebuild his right leg. Has fought to get back into Formula 2 and now he's back on the podium. So that's incredible. And obviously, Correa is the hero of Formula 2 for this week. Paul Aaron in P4. Yet again with Paul Aaron, you know, yes, he made mistakes for sure, and you know, realistically, he should have been on the podium here. But Paul Aaron is doing his Paul Aaron thing. He hasn't won a race this year, but he's leading the championship because of races like this, performances like this, where yeah, he hasn't won, yeah, he's not on the podium, but he's still getting great points, consistently getting great points, building that lead in the championship and being like a serious contender more than anyone who's actually won a race this year. Isaac Hadjar comes home in 5th. Kush Miney is 6th with Bortoleto 7th. Like I said, I expect Miney to get a penalty that will probably reverse those two. Maloney was in 8th, but I think he was far enough back so that if Miney was to get a 5 or 10 second penalty, I don't think it would promote Maloney, but we'll wait and see. Cordial was 9th. Marty last of the points finishers in 10th place. So yeah, overall some good racing from Formula 2. Not the best Formula 2 race ever, but still pretty good. And Paul Aaron again continues to do very well in this Formula 2 championship. Like I said, a hero of Formula 2 for this week for me, Juan Manuel Correa. But yeah, good stuff. Let me know what you thought of this Formula 2 race. We're back later on for all things Formula 1. I'll see you then. Goodbye.